Let's wait till 6:05.
We will begin in a few minutes. We're just waiting for people to trickle in. We'll start at 6:05.
Okay.
Okay, I think let's start. Welcome to our last curatorial walk for this week for Mumbai Water Narratives. A little bit of introduction to what Mumbai Water Narratives is for all the people who have joined us for the first time. So Mumbai Water Narratives was conceptualized in June 2020 by the Living Waters Museum. Around 30 professionals, including water researchers, artists, conservation architects, photographers, designers, urban planners, came together to launch Mumbai Water Narratives, and consequently, Confluence is the first virtual exhibition. It launched this Sunday. Confluence launched a year after the lockdown and in time for World Water Day, tracing a journey from heritage to public health. It is supported by the Living Waters Museum, a digital repository on our water heritage, and a member of the Global Network of Water Museums, endorsed by UNESCO's Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. Today, we are here for the curatorial walk on COVID and access to water by Abhijit Ekbote. Abhijit Ekbote graduated as an architect in 1999 from CEPT University, Ahmedabad. After completing his post-graduation in urban design, he worked on several projects at an urban scale and developed the GIS course, which was streamlined for architecture graduates pursuing their post-graduation in urban design and urban conservation at the School of Environment and Architecture, and Kamla Raheja Vidyanidhi Institute for Architecture and Environmental Studies. Abhijit is currently the Secretary of Mumbai Metropolitan Region's Environment Improvement Society and former Secretary of Heritage Conservation Society, which are societies formed by the MMRDA for funding initiatives towards the protection of environment and heritage in the urban metropolis. Abhijit, I would like to hand over the screen to you now. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, so a small correction to that is that I am the former secretary of MMR, EIS and HCS, and both the societies are actually within the MMRDA, I'm basically under MMRDA, and they're funded by MMRDA. How this entire journey started is something that I will quickly try to explain. So same time last year, probably there was this outbreak that happened, and Mumbai started experiencing the sudden rise of COVID. And initially there were only 4 places, which I still remember. It was only 4 dots on the entire map of Mumbai, and it grew from that to something unimaginable within a month or 1.5 months. So by April end or May, it was all over the city, and we all know about that. So then when it actually started, the first impulse that I had was, where is this information? I mean, if I want to know, because I can't get out of my house, and if I have to, then how do I know where are the areas, which are the areas which are absolute no-go zones? And if I am moving around for some reason, if I should know whether I'm near a COVID hotspot or if I'm far from it. So also one of the things that came to my mind, that the health workers, which are the frontline workers, which were on the field, had no clue about where and what exactly is happening on the map. The MCGM did a great job by publishing some information on the website, but the website was very clumsy. It was not accessible on phones. So the first thing I did was took the HTML data that they had already published and created a friendlier kind of an interface so that one could actually open these spots on the Google Maps on the phone itself. So if you're moving around, if you're somewhere, okay, you are almost very close to the hotspot and so on. So that's how this whole thing started. And as and how the MCGM was kind of updating information on their website, I was kind of accessing that and updating mine so that the map remained so as to up to date. So basically they were updating their information about once or twice a month. That's how it was working. Then the next step was to kind of understand, then certain patterns started emerging from this sort of an exercise. So I started overlaying certain other sets of information on this to understand what's really happening. So then the first impulse was to kind of understand which are the areas which are most affected. So if I look at the corporator boundaries of Mumbai and then understand the density of the corporator boundaries and then overlay the COVID hotspots on that, I could understand that, okay, most cases are found on areas which are very highly dense. So these areas you can see, this is Dharavi. Okay, this belt here near the railways and the C ward of Mumbai, one of the most densest ward of Mumbai. Okay, and these informal settlements along near the airport. So all of that started emerging that yes, these are the dense corporator wards, and the number of hotspots are over there. So then I actually overlaid another set of information that was the informal settlements on that to understand what is going on, and I found that most of it. So this was around May, end of May or June that I made this map last year, May actually, and it revealed that about 41% of COVID hotspots were actually right on informal settlements. So that was alarming. So there was some sort of a relationship between resource constraint areas and the possibility that there is a COVID hotspot over there. Okay, and then I also found that most of these hotspots, more than half, were actually more than less than 200 meters from each other. So a proximity analysis actually revealed that uh, if there is a resource constrained area and the density is also high, then there are chances that the hotspots will be found over there. So that was something that I could come up with. And if you look at the water supply uh, situation of the city, where most of the water that comes to our city comes from about 108 to 110 kilometers far away. A lot of these findings were actually a result of an exercise that we had done with the Pani Hak Samiti. And then that information was updated from the MMRDA's business plan 2003. So the new water sources were then added to this map to understand how much water really comes. So if you go to the web page and you open this map and you click on the water source, you will get to see how much million liters per day comes from where. Okay. And these are, some of them are planned, some of them are almost in force. So I have included all of those on the map. And the map of Mumbai is organized in such a way that if you look at the legend, water shortage areas, containment areas, water sources, and ward boundaries are kind of labeled here. So if you click on, say, the numerical figure that you see here, the map actually explodes into several other dots which form clusters, and you'll see that a cluster, a larger cluster here, and it's the informal settlements underneath reveal a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, you'll see that most of the COVID hotspots even today are either in or very close to informal settlements in the city. Yeah, so I'm just navigating through so if you go further deep into the map and you click on, say, 5 here, it will explode into 5 other dots and show you how they are spread across the city. And you will see that most of these dots are actually in informal settlements, areas which have resource constraints. Access to water is definitely a problem in these areas, where there are shared taps, common taps, which public taps, which they have to access, where 4 or 5 or even more families are dependent on that. Only 1 hour water comes over there, and people have to queue up. And the kind of social distancing that we talk about is only on paper. It's not really possible to do that here. However, one has seen that Dharavi has been a little resilient in the way it actually could handle a lot of this, because primarily it has systems, it has organized itself in sort of communities in such a way that they have their own mechanisms of working, and they are much smarter, so, and they are faster. So the way they are organized, they have certain systems in place which make them more resilient. So I think Dharavi is an exception to this, but you can see that now that the city is experiencing a lot of cases. Today, suddenly there were 60 cases recorded in Dharavi, and if it is 60 on paper, it may be 600 in reality. You don't know actually how much testing is happening and what kind of data is really coming through. Okay, so yeah, I mean that's how the whole journey has been so far, and I'm very happy to get this opportunity of showing my work. Thank you. Ipshita, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Abhijit. I mean, this is very insightful for us. And I think this is one narrative that is not really well known, how water scarcity and COVID and disasters and waterborne and outbreaks and epidemics are kind of interrelated. We have one question on the chat box by Bijoy Thomas. How do you define a hotspot and how many number of infections?
So the definition of a hotspot according to MCGM changed. You know, when earlier the dots on the map were actual number of people who are infected. But later that changed to if more than 20 to 25 people are infected in a particular area, then that entire nagar or area or settlement or whatever it is cordoned off and is called as a containment zone. So if more than 20 to 25 people test positive, then that particular society is sealed or that particular informal settlement is sealed, so that the access, I mean, people coming in and going out of that place is checked. That's how it is.
Are there any other questions? Since we are a small group, like you could just unmute yourself and ask the questions here.
Hi, this is Bijoy again. I had a follow-up question. So since the situation is quite dynamic in terms of the trends which you've been monitoring over the last 1 year or so, so are there any visible trends which are visible in the sense that marked trends which are visible in the sense of where the hotspots occur and especially with respect to water that we are talking about? How is the dynamics working out since you've been monitoring it for the last several months? Thank you.
Yeah, so first finding was that areas which are having a higher density, which is what the kind of density that we are talking about here is about 1500 people, 2500 people per hectare. You know, that sort of a density exists in slums, in informal settlements. So there is a chance that the hotspot will be on such a place, much higher probability. Okay, so if you navigate the map, you will see that most of the COVID hotspots are actually lying on the informal settlements directly. Yeah, and so once such hotspots are found, I mean this entire patch would be called as a containment. So the trends are such that basically areas which have less water, where people can't really get access to water, that it only comes 1 hour in a day, those are the areas which are most vulnerable.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Okay, I'll ask a question, Ipshita.
Yeah.
Abhijit, do you know if this kind of mapping work has been done anywhere else in the country?
Yes, I mean, a lot of cities are doing it. A lot of corporations are doing it. So I am also working on another project in Bhubaneswar,
Okay.
where we are actually mapping amenities in resource constrained areas in Bhubaneswar. And Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation has done a map. However, they have done a pie chart kind of a, so it you can't really see where that hotspot is, but the ward map appears and which ward is doing how well or bad, that is shown in a pie chart. So that's how they have represented it, but not really spatially to kind of show that, okay, these are the areas which have access problems, and hence there is something like this happening here. But they are basically showing ward wise. But yes, there are corporations which have done it.
Okay. And they've also done these kind of live maps. I mean, not live, but, maps which you can interact with.
Yes, they have a website and they have done it.
Okay.
But this whole thing actually started from giving access on Google Maps, on the phone, where people, the frontline workers can actually start using that. And that's how the maps are being used. Even so today, I think the number of views has crossed 5 lakh something.
Okay.
I can see that on the Google Maps whenever I open it. And I think people are still using it. It spread very fast. So initially when the map access was not there, actually there was an article that got published in Hindustan Times, and that's how it got popular, and people have started using that link.
Right.
Abhijit, is there a way that we can sort of crowdsource information? Like you can say, for instance, I or anyone else would want to contribute information to this. Is there a mechanism of doing it?
Yes, if I give administrator rights to the Google map that I am managing, then one can do it. But there has to be a authentic way of kind of verifying. So who is the administrator? That the data has to come through that person so that it's validated before it becomes live. So if that mechanism is in place, yes, it can happen. I mean, that would be fantastic if people start adding information rather than corporation doing it.
So let's think of how we can do this in the coming weeks, Ipshita. Also, when we open, I just wanted to know, Abhijit, this map, is it linked to the MMRDA's site as well? Can they use our map?
No, I don't think they have used that. However, they were talking to me that can we use this in some way?
Yeah.
So probably they were thinking of some research project for funding purpose, but I don't think they have kind of formally come back on that.
Okay.
But they do intend to kind of use this information for some other research.
Okay. And Ipshita, is this map accessible in Marathi as well, or Hindi?
No, I don't think so.
It's just in English right now. Okay, so it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there are no other questions, we can.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Since there are none, I think there is this one question that we are actually asking all contributors and artists of Mumbai Water Narratives, which is how do you think, like, what do you think is the future of a collective like Mumbai Water Narratives, especially where so many citizens, so many researchers have come together of their own will, of their own accord, and how do you think that we can affect change in the future? How do we go beyond this exhibition, and how do we start working together in a more collaborative way? What do you think is the future of collectives such as us?
So I think it's a very good mix of people who are technically sound, people who are, graphically also, they know how to represent information and, use graphics in a way that people can access. There are some people who are in academics, I believe, some working on ground. So maybe all of them can come together. Like for instance, I can think of collaborating with academic institutions and coming up with ideas of how urban studios could be conducted, and a lot of information can be then collected from the perspective of making an argument and making a difference on the ground, rather than just being on the paper or on some website. a lot of this can then be proposed, in fact, to the corporation also, that look, these are the things and this could be done. So I think that could be very exciting if we could get a lot of academic institutions on board and collaborate with them. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I really hope that does happen in future editions of Mumbai Water Narratives. We have done a few water studios with IAS College of Architecture and Rizvi College of Architecture, but we really want to take this forward now. Look at also other institutions, schools. How do we get into schools as well? Primary schools, secondary schools, government schools, just to see how this can become a bigger part of our water education. And how do we train children from a younger age? So thank you so much. Thank you, Abhijit, for taking us through this curatorial walk and for this exhibit itself. I hope that you will also be continuing to add to this map in the future as the second wave comes. And I hope that
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I am adding it. Yeah.
And I hope that we'll get more insights from this.
Yes.
And we are also close to time now. So thank you everyone who attended. If you would like to know more about Bombay's history of waterborne diseases and epidemics, we have another panel that will start at 7:30 with Dr. Mridula Ramana and Basia Irland. And we will be tracing a journey, a timeline from the 1800s to now, to the first case of the COVID pandemic, to know that, to understand what are the various trends that we see in waterborne diseases so far and what are the implications of those in the future. So I hope to see you there. And I hope that you'll also see all the exhibits in detail, because this exhibition is going to be live for a year. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Abhijit.
Thanks, Sarah.